if you are somebody who has the ability to 3D model, hopefully you'll stick around for this video. The same holds true also if you're able to create custom color packs for Studio. And the reason for this is because in a couple of previous videos, I talked about how Pokemon, the IP, was being attained by Lego. And the one thing that scares me about this is that Pokemon was the largest IP in terms of sales for Mega. And Mega Construx as a brand is already struggling quite a bit. I mean, they're owned by Mattel. I don't think Mattel is having too much trouble, so they probably can chug on, but who knows for how long. For my sake, I hope they continue on strong. There are many other beloved IPs by Mega, and while I am not somebody who personally consumes other IPs from them, I greatly respect the people who do, who enjoy Halo from them, among other things as well, and I hope they continue to see tons of good news in the future. But that said, though, when it comes to the Pokemon builds that Mega Construx has made, you see this list right here, and it feels ample, but you note the obvious lack, the builds that were never made, the Pokemon that were left on the cutting room floor. And it's quite unfortunate because I think we got pretty close to some of these. And I say close in the sense that we have so many pieces that could potentially go into building many of the unbuilt sets from this, but not quite there yet. I went out of my way, though, to go through this list, which I created earlier today for this video specifically, but actually circled or squared several of the sets that I think were the closest to building, with one exception down here towards the very bottom, last one in the row, Pinsir. And the reason I squared that one too is because that's actually a set that I want to try this concept out on. So this video is two projects in one. It is an effort to preserve the sets that we have had. Mega Construx has instructions for many of the Pokemon sets that they put out in the past on the Mattel website, but not all of them. Now, I think you can find them elsewhere online, so they don't have them all in one place. You know, Mega is a brand within a brand. It's not as vertically integrated as something like Lego is, so it doesn't have as many of the resources on the back end that Lego has. Like Lego has Studio, a free program where you can just build in 3D space on Bricklink. Lego has Bricklink, where you can just go and buy whatever loose pieces you want, but there's really no equivalent for Mega in either direction. You can't buy the loose parts easily. You can buy them in bulk, sure, or maybe find somebody who's willing to sell you individual parts, but you can't buy them from Mega as a brand. The same holds true when it comes to building in 3D space. You just can't, but you could get close, because Studio has this uncanny ability to allow you to actually use 3D parts, custom parts. So, my proposition in this video, if you are able to contribute to this project, it is greatly appreciated. And I'm taking a bit of inspiration from this project as well, from Tammy Calamity, wonderful creator over here on YouTube as well. I highly encourage you to check them out. But they have their own project, which they call, and it is a community project as well, which they call the Digital Construction Collection. I could have that incorrect, but it actually branches further than construction into actual Lego themes as well. And it works to preserve these themes in Bricklink Studio. Now, Studio does not have literally every piece Lego has ever made, so some pieces in there are stand-ins. But of course, Lego doesn't have any of the Mega exclusive pieces. So any of the pieces you would find from Mega Bloks, Mega Construx, Mega as a brand, like even a simple piece like this right here, a cheese slope, a 1x2, but it's an offset jumper as well. So it's a jumper at a fixed angle. Lego doesn't have that in their catalog. They've had a piece like it in the distant past, but they don't have that currently. And that's unfortunate, because little pieces like that can actually go a long way. Now, I know that there are many people who are going to say, well, that's not a Lego purist project, but that's kind of the point, right? The idea here is to have a pack, have a resource that's out there online for people to find who are fans of Mega, but we don't know the future. We don't know what it holds for Mega as a brand. What we do know is that the brand has struggled off and on in the past, and losing their most profitable IP has to hurt, especially losing it to Lego, their fiercest competitor. So many businesses, so many companies are hardly willing to even stock Mega branded sets It's difficult for me to find. When I was at Walmart just the other day, I saw plenty of Pokemon sets for Mega, but nothing else. None of their other themes were on store shelves. And I feel that that's unfortunate for them, because soon those Pokemon sets will be gone too, and Lego will have all of it, and Mega will have none. Unless Mega is able to replace those parts in that section. Plenty of other non-labeled, off-labeled brands on the store shelves at a Walmart, but not Mega. Was surprising. I went out of my way to create for myself, just on a piece of paper, so this is not professionally done by any means, but some parts to get an idea of what a potential pincer set could look like. And to me, this is the one I want to start on, not because pincer holds any specific place in my heart, but just because A, it is the same height as my favorite G1 Pokemon, which is Scyther, 5'11", so I have something to kind of measure it up to, but also because it's a fairly straightforward build in and of itself. It's essentially a teardrop body with horns, hands that are very simple and similar to many hands from other Gen 1 Pokemon, and legs that are also quite simple as well. There's not a whole lot that needs to move or be complicated on him, but I still went out of my way to make sure that it was a build not in the Lego design philosophy, but in Mega's. It uses pieces that Mega has in its catalog, or that feel like pieces Mega would make. Because I can tell you right now, having experience with both brands, that Lego is not keen to go out of their way to produce pieces like this, for example. It's not to say that they won't do it. In fact, I pointed out a recent example of them doing just this, but with a larger set, and that specifically was the Lego Dreams set, Izzy's Dream Animals. And that set specifically has a head on it for a red panda, but it's a giant red panda build. And it's a specifically molded piece for that set, but it's also a very simple mold. It's not overly detailed in its mold. The print on it is good, but the mold itself is very clean, very streamlined. And it makes me think that maybe this is testing the waters for things like these to come, because we know now that Lego has the IP, which probably means they've been talking about it in the background with Pokemon, with Nintendo, for at least the better part of a year. But since we know how long Lego tends to work on this stuff, potentially 2 or even 3 years. We also know that Mega Construx has kind of slowed down the rollout of some of its Pokemon sets in the past couple of years as well, which makes me think that this is probably true, but I don't know that. That said, though, there's a lot. So, what is the other project? As I mentioned, a community catalog of Mega Construx parts specifically. If Lego has a part that is a one-to-one analog for a Mega Construx piece, then it's not necessary to make it with Mega Construx. But Mega Construx has many pieces that Lego does not currently have. So creating those parts, 3D models for them, I think is important for the preservation of many of the builds, not just Pokemon, but other themes as well. But what about the sets that are missing? Well, as I stated before, there's probably more of them left on the cutting room floor than I would like. I would love to see every one of Generation 1's Pokemon realized. So, a project that I may undertake, and I can do a little bit of the 3D modeling myself, but this is a much greater project if you were able to contribute at all, is to try and make every one of these Pokemon that are missing here before Lego gets the IP in 2026. I can't do that alone, and I don't know that that's necessarily a project anybody else wants to tackle with me, but I will try. And if we're able to create 3D modeled parts for this, I think that that would be a win for the community. Even if many of these sets will never exist, it still shows that there's a bit of love, nonetheless, for a franchise dead too soon in a lot of people's eyes. And like I said, I will say I am not one to pass off critiques when it comes to a brand. I think that Mega Construx absolutely shot themselves in the foot with this, with how many times they re-released several of the Pokemon on here. Some of them so many egregious times. Pikachu, I get it, poster child of the theme, but the Pikachu from Mega Construx comes in at least 4 different scales, 4 different sizes, potentially more. I have not counted. I don't care to count. But just counting this one right here on screen, that scale of Pikachu, I counted 26 of them, and I probably missed some. If you reproduced a set 26 times in 7 years, that doesn't look so good. You know what I mean? Poster child or not, that's not great. And there are many on here that are not poster childs of the theme, but still got reproduced a bunch. Cubone, several times. The Magikarp, multiple times. Most of the big Pokemon that they produced, Dragonite, Snorlax, Lapras, Charizard, Gengar. I know that there's more, but I can't think of them all. That they produced several times. All of the starter full evolutions they produced multiple times. Again, makes sense. But yeah, man, so many others of these. How many people out there wanted like Nidoqueen, Nidoking, you know, or wanted Magneton, which would have been the simplest one for them to create. They have Magnemite. Magneton is literally just 3 of those. Why would you not make that? Pinsir is a fairly straightforward one to make. I think the legendary birds, I don't understand. Like I said, absolutely willing to critique them, and I'll be absolutely willing to critique Legos when they hit store shelves as well, if they don't meet my expectations. It's not to say that my expectations are the right ones, mind you. I want specific things from Lego's Pokemon. But if I don't get them, I'm not going to yell at Lego about them not meeting my desires, because who am I, first off? Just a little guy on the internet. But also, they've got way more fans to please than me. It's not about what sets I like or don't like. That's my personal taste. But what I will critique is what they're willing to do and what they're not. What I would love to see is them to pick up the torch where Mega Construx left off, to try and produce as many of those Pokemon in similar scales, to try to fill a similar sort of market cap and market product as Mega Construx was trying to do. I love the idea of these small polybag-esque builds, and I hope that that continues forward. There's so many Pokemon that doing anything larger than that is unrealistic. 150 Pokemon in Generation 1. If you were to make 150 of them larger than this, think of how much money that is for someone to shell out. I mean, think of how much Mega Construx sells them for. You know, when these sets came out on store shelves, I believe they were $7 a piece for the smallest sets. I could be wrong, might be 6, might be 8, but generally speaking, multiply that by 151 and realize that that's not the accounting for the markup for secondary evolutions and stage 2 evolutions. You know, the Charmeleons and Charizards, right? Oftentimes the secondary evolutions were in sets that were larger, and not primary, third evolutions, Charizard, Blastoise, etc., Stage 2, whatever. It always confuses me. And those were also in larger sets as well. The only ones that ever saw release in Pokeballs, in polybags, if you will, were basic Pokemon. So I'm really giving them the benefit of the doubt when I say $7 per 150 Pokemon. That's way too much to expect people to spend. But when you start boxing them together, right? Having battle packs or trainer packs or dioramas of Pokemon in situ, out in nature, whatever. Like that starts to make a little bit more sense. So anyway, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe. It helps out the channel tremendously. Once again, if you are somebody who is interested in helping with this project at all, get a hold of me over on Instagram. I will leave that linked down in the description below. You can just DM me over there and we'll see what we can do. I'm also going to try and model at least a handful of these parts in the free time that I do have, notably some of the more common pieces, but we'll see what I'm able to get done. I don't have calipers on me, so I'll do the best that I can in reference to existing Lego parts. Anyway, that's it for this one. Take care.